This episode is brought to you by Bulletproof Designs. Bulletproof Designs are high-quality billet aluminum protective parts for your dirt bike made right here in the USA. What I love so much about my Bulletproof products is the silky smooth installation and the insurance it buys me on keeping my bike safe. I've been using Bulletproof Designs since 2012 and have had great luck with all of their products. Bulletproof Designs products come with a lifetime warranty, so if you damage something, you know they got your back. If you want to keep your bike safe so you can keep riding weekend after weekend, head on over to bulletproofdesigns.com and order some parts today. This episode is brought to you by SXS Slide Plates. SXS Slide Plates are high-density UHMW skid plates made right here in the USA. These skid plates smoothen the transition between your frame and your linkage so that you can slide over rocks, logs, and other trail obstacles while you're in the mountains. These skid plates are designed to save you time on the track, money in your wallet, and wear on your bike. Head on over to sxsslideplate.com and enter code MAX15 at checkout. That's MAX15 at checkout to get a discount on your order and help support the podcast. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Climb. Climb makes off-road and adventure gear for the hardcore enthusiast. The latest addition is their XC Pro line of gear. This gear is designed to be flexible, lightweight, while staying durable and ready for action. I've been with Climb since 2008. They were one of my first sponsors, and we've been together this whole time. They have great gear, and now they're supporting all of the hard enduro efforts here in the States. They support us, so go support them. Thank you guys for getting through these ads with us. These companies help keep the podcast going. We wouldn't be able to do it without them. I hope you enjoy this episode. Let's run it.
We're live.
Sick.
One of these was me.
All right,
Is it looking good? It's kind of got that nice light that we were hoping?
Yeah.
Cool.
Looks great.
And we can't see the moving blankets or anything?
No.
Sick. That's what we want.
Sick, dude. That's a big help getting this shit squared away. I mean, it's been such a process to get this studio dialed in, and like it's obviously has a lot to grow into, but any bit of advice and tips and thoughts and all that helps so much.
Yeah, and that's I mean that's kind of it, right? Is like it's not built in a day, and Rome wasn't built in a day, and also you kind of have that attitude of like you're always improving and looking at what process can I refine to get better at something. And I've noticed that like when we first started working together, you were like, hey, what do I need to do on the media side? And like same thing with this. You've always had that mindset of like learning and progression. Some people like don't want to be told or don't want to change, right? But I think that's like with this, like you're just going to constantly like, because you have that mentality, like it's just going to get better and better and better. And I think now you got like the baseline, and you know people are just going to start coming in and you know flooding your list of invitees. Is going to be cool.
I think so. Yeah, and I mean, for me, I don't know about this. I don't know about the tech. I don't know about the gear, the lighting setup. I don't know about any of it. What I do know about is dirt bikes, having fun, mindset, stuff like that. So I might as well, I'm open for suggestions on that too, you know, and especially the camera stuff. And I don't know, I feel like it's kind of a important thing. I see people that are so full of their own ideas that I feel like they almost can't go up anymore because if they have it all figured out already, then it's like,
yeah, if you think you're at the top, then you're wrong because there's always another level, always a way to improve. You know? Like probably in racing, like there's always like you can win, but then you know there's always next year and whatever, right?
Yeah.
So,
but now I know it's gonna drive me nuts looking back at my previous episodes where our lighting wasn't dialed, and it's gonna be like, oh, dude, what do we gotta do to get them all like that?
Just have Destry back in, man. I mean, talk more. I think you shouldn't be afraid to have more people in more than just once.
Oh
you know?
yeah,
like have them in 3-4 times over the years.
Oh yeah, I want to get Destry in like somewhat regularly.
Yeah, I mean, she showed me like a couple seconds, and it was a cool energy for sure.
Yeah, it's good, and he's just like so solid, and he has so much knowledge and so much everything. It's good to have him in, and I don't know, it's just we have room in the studio to expand a little bit, so I don't know what the future of it looks like, but yeah, we could definitely do some different stuff. It'd be fun, so we'll see.
That's good.
But thanks for all the help with the studio. In the studio right now, we got Blake Scott, a.k.a. Long Neck, a.k.a. Short Back.
Right here. It's all right here, baby.
The Sky Pixel Media This is the main man right here. We filmed the US Hard Enduro series for 2 years together. That was kind of like the first media production style thing that I've done. So I've learned a lot from this guy. And Longneck, thanks for coming by and helping us with the lighting and being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, truth be told, I kind of gaslit him into this just to, see if he was willing to have a non-racer on the platform. But I thought it would also be kind of cool to shed some light on what it takes to film, the hard enduro scene. It's definitely a challenging sport, but I think, I get a lot of comments. People are always asking, how to film this kind of stuff, how to haul the gear out. And, I'm in a position now, fortunately, through working with you, that I get to film and ride with these guys on a semi-regular basis. So it's cool to kind of share some of that and talk about, what it takes to promote the sport and kind of grow it. Cause that's really my goal, is just to see this underappreciated sport just grow.
Yeah, 100%. And if all that I ever had on here was racers, then we'd be kind of limiting our content. And I feel like it's good to get color from all angles, and especially when considering trying to grow the sport of off-road and hard enduro and the things that we love. I feel like the more knowledge that we can share with the community and the people, the better things are going to go, and the larger the pie is going to expand to,
Yeah, and I think that's what's so unique for me to see in hard enduro. Like, we filmed a lot of different industries over the years, a lot of racing, a lot of motorsports, street stuff, and like this sport is unique because the guys are hungry to prove that it has a place, and everybody wants to grow the pie bigger. I mean, we talk about it a lot because, there's one mentality of like stepping on toes and everybody has their own lane, and then the other side of it is let's all work together and grow. And that's actually where I feel like most guys are in this sport. And that's what's drawn me to want to focus majority of my effort now, or at least probably 50% of it throughout the year in our film business, just on hard enduro related stuff, because like, it's just unique. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, and I don't think that other people contributing to the content pool or to the knowledge pool of this industry pulls anything away from you or from me or what I'm putting out. I think it's more about finding your lane, finding what you want to do, which is what I'm doing right now, trying to find my lane and enjoy the process. This is what I enjoy doing, and stick with that and create your own thing. And there's so much opportunity out there with YouTube, Instagram, different ways to make it happen, that it's worth finding your own lane and just adding to the pool and creating. People won't listen to the podcasts that don't get made, and they won't watch the Instagram videos and the YouTube videos that aren't made. So
100%.
You gotta, if you want to build it, then you gotta just start creating stuff.
Yeah, and it's cool to see, people like you that are racers, but also kind of are interested in content and, kind of growing the sport by showing what's not seen, because a lot of racers, it's easy to focus on the race program, and it's hard to take time to focus on getting content. I mean, I'll be the first to say a film crew never speeds anything up.
Yeah, right.
We're pretty good at slowing everything down and shutting down, the fun sometimes. And so for people to want to value this and put the time in it's cool to see. And I think some of the racers are on that program too. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, well, and I'm kind of on the latter half of my career racing wise. I'm slowly phasing out. I got more years in me. I'm not done, but I'm kind of tapering back on what I'm racing, when I'm racing, how I'm approaching it. So, but I still love it, and it's still a part of me, and I can kind of start some other things, get some other things going, and still race and have fun. And racing costs me money at this point in my career, but like I said, it's fun and it makes me a better person. So it's worth it.
Yeah, and you still got to stay sharp on the follow cams,
Exactly.
You can't have the media guy, not able to hang with the top dogs. That's what's so cool about, what you do, is you still can do that. And I don't think that's something that you're going to lose anytime soon. You're going to stay sharp on that. And a lot of people really talk about like how crazy it is that you can ride at that pace and hang with those guys and still narrate. Like, imagine just riding at that pace anyway, but then on top of that, being able to communicate a story. And we've talked a lot about that over the years, how you've really gotten good at storytelling while riding at crazy speeds in gnarly terrain.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and it's still one of those processes that I'm learning every time with, but it's so much fun. And what people don't realize is I'm 110% for 30 seconds to 2 minutes, where these guys are in the middle of their long race. So I have to figure out how to hone my focus and my energy into that short period of time to make something that's worth watching. At least that's how I see it anyway. So, but yeah, it is difficult. I'm trying to keep up with these guys and read them and analyze their riding and see what they got going on, so that I have context and have some material to work with. I can't just drop in behind somebody and start making something up. No, I got to drop in. I got to ride with them. I got to watch them ride. And, is their fender falling off? Have they had any problems? What do their grips look like? How is there any dirty spots in their gear? Are they smooth? Are they hitting their lines? Are they getting bounced around, or are they looking smooth? Do they look like things are clicking? So it's like I have to analyze, figure it out, ride, and then
and keep up all the same
time.
And
then rip a line. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and going through almost tens of hours or maybe hundreds of hours at this point of your fall cam, it's cool to see how you look at the bigger picture of these guys and kind of read what's going on in their race, and then that way you can tell that story. And like you say, you're not just showing up and seeing them, oh, they're going over the rock and they're dropping down the ravine. It's like you can almost like put yourself in their shoes, because you've been there. And I think that's what makes your skill set so rare, is that you know what they're doing and where they're at in the race, mentally, physically. Typically you can get pretty close to that, but you can also tell it from a storytelling perspective on the film side, and like communicate. A lot of people might recognize what they're doing out there, but they're not able to put a line together. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's been really cool. And Rachel and I talk about it all the time, how like the glue that holds the whole thing together was always the max cam. You were kind of like our secret insurance policy. It's like, okay, if we're missing something, like he's always going to have a line. He's always there at the right place at the right time, and we could always count on it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. And yeah, I feel like the communication is such a important fundamental in the game of success of anything, whether that's creating a hard enduro movie, a race recap video, of anything that you're trying to do in life, a healthy relationship, trying to start a business, anything that you want to be successful at. I feel like good, healthy communication is a really serious part of that. And that's one thing that we made clear right out of the gate in 2021 when we started at Grindingstone. You showed up in that rig, and I'm like, all right, here's the guy. Here's our guy. Okay, we got to make this work. We're making this work, and we're doing it. And I had, up until that point, had very little time in front of a camera at all. I mean,
you had like a natural skill set though, but
I guess
naturally good at it,
I guess.
But that was what was cool, is you were very like feet first. What do I need to do to improve? And I was super green to the racing side, not really knowing the flow of the races. I just found the Grindingstone. I found the Grindingstone Instagram one day way back and was realizing like, this is a really cool race, but like, I bet there's more to the story. And, I was seeing a couple pictures here and there and some video, but that's when I reached out to the Instagram and kind of got connected, and then, here we are. But yeah, there was a story to be told there, but like, I didn't know the strategy for how to acquire that. That's where you helped me a ton to say like, this is how the flow is, this is where they're going to be. And, I remember you'd go out and prototype sections, and we'd have like actual splits of like, from here to there is how long it's going to take, and then subtract X number of minutes because it's the top boys. And then, the Tristan factor, the rider factor, let's subtract another 10 minutes.
Exactly.
And hopefully we're there on time to meet them.
Up.
And so that's where it was cool. Like, I think we had a good energy because you brought that to the table, and then I had like a vision on the film side, and you had the execution and the boots to the ground. Here's how we're going to actually make that happen.
Yeah.
And I remember at the first Grindingstone race, we showed up at the same place multiple times throughout the race, like kind of, stuck to our plan, and it all worked out. No radios, and, just all worked out to like get set up and get the shots. And it was pretty cool.
I remember Grindingstone being very exciting because it was that we were like realizing all this at the same time, like, oh, okay, listen, you just tell me what you need from me and I'll do the best that I can. And then you'll be like, all right, what about all this racing? Where's the course? Where's it going to go? And how are we going to do this? And my knowledge, your knowledge. And it was like, we had one big brain between the two of us, and we figured that out. And then the race was clicking off, and we're meeting up at spots at the same time without any communications or anything. So I was like, okay, things are clicking. This is going to work.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I was like, going into it, I'm like, this is an experiment. Like, can it be done?
Total experiment. You didn't know me at all except for our Zoom meeting.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, this guy wears a cowboy hat. It seems cool, But yeah, like, and I hadn't filmed anything like that, like this before with such a small crew. Red Bull, they go out with, 10, 15 guys. They park a guy on the side of a hill, and that guy lives right there. And that's all he does is shoot that spot all day. So, with it being me, you, Rachel, and then we got a little more help with Evan, which was awesome down the road. And Matt would always, I don't know how he ever had time, but he'd always be out there helping. But, to to do it with just a small crew was experiment. So when it started to come together after Grindingstone, I'm like, all right, there's legs with this.
Yeah.
You know?
It was sick because we had to figure out how can we be the most amount of places the most amount of times, you know, and
At the right time.
at the right times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we miss something, we never missed anything.
We hardly missed much. I think the only once or twice we missed the top guys coming
Yeah.
through. I know I ate shit at King of the Motos last year on my bike and swapped out and like low sided and totally like delayed me a little bit, but that of course was tough. I think I missed Tristan at the top of a hill there, but
Well, King of Motos is the worst access place.
yeah.
I mean, maybe
Maybe
Kauai, Kauai might be worse access, but King of Motos
it's tough.
it's just the distances are big and vast, and the rocks and the canyons are big and chunky. It just takes a lot of energy, and you got to cover some distance out there. And a lot of the time, the fastest way through those mountains is the race course.
That's
It's
one
the
thing we learned.
It's the shortest and the steepest also
For you, not fastest for me.
for the racers.
Yeah.
It's the shortest and the steepest, the courses, but it's also the quickest way through a lot of times. So
Yeah.
it's difficult, but I mean, that's also what makes our job special is that, you know, we have to get back to there and figure out how to film this stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I started doing this in the first place. Like the fulfilling part, purposeful part of it is because I've been racing off-road my whole life, desert races, all types of off-road races. And I don't think my mom's seen me ride very much. You know, it's
Right.
like start the race, see you
See
later.
ya.
And then I come back 4 hours later, 3 hours later, 2 hours later.
Nobody
like,
knows what
And
happened.
like, how was your race, honey? I'm like,
Words don't describe,
I
right?
can't even tell you how it was. I overshot a turn and I clipped a barbed wire fence and I got wrapped up in my wheel and I had to fix it. And then there was a baby deer that ran across the trail in front of me. And then I did a nose wheelie on accident for 30 feet. Like it was crazy, you know, like I
Right?
can't even tell you. So to be able to get out there and try to film some of this stuff and bring it to the people,
Yeah.
that's what I like. I want to be able to, like we talked about before, I want to be able to have a link that I can send to my aunt and be like, hey, check this out. This is what I do.
This is what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what kind of drew me into it once I kind of realized that this was a sport that was so underseen, I guess, just inherently the distances and like how gnarly it is. You know, nobody gets to see that. It's hard to be a spectator for a hard enduro race at a lot of them. So that's what was cool to me is like the thought of showing people what isn't seen and all the trials and tribulations that people go through and people working together, you know, competitors, enemies, whatever, they're all helping each other at times, especially in the amateurs. And so that's what made it really fun is to try to like unpack a story that is mostly not seen. And I think a lot of sports, it's all overshot or shot enough. Like you can see every sport there is basically, you know, basketball, football, whatever, like it's all televised, everything's there. But for hard enduro, it's like like you say, they disappear and they come back 4 hours later and it's like, what happened?
Yeah. And there's nothing to show for it.
And nothing. And they're putting in crazy amount of work.
Crazy work.
Bikes flying, everything.
Yeah.
Like getting crafty, fixing the bikes, you know, throwing creek water in your coolant, you know,
Paying
whatever you got to
full
do.
retail the whole time.
Full retail, which is
Gator would say.
as Gator would say, that was a good one. Yeah, the Iowa race, he was seeing bikes going flying, and Gator, the Sherco mechanic, was just yelling like those guys are paying full retail or something like that.
And it brought up a good point too, because it's like, you know what, these people are playing full retail. These aren't just like supported riders that don't care about their stuff, and no, they're putting in real effort and real money to get here, and they're still trying hard. And I think that's what draws people in is just the challenge of it, of hard enduro. It's good to be challenged. You know, there's something inside of humans that when you challenge yourself, it does something.
Brings out the
for
best
you.
of you.
It brings out the best of you. Yeah,
Your true character. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you think of the times when you were in the biggest pinches in your life, whether it was a financial pinch or better example would be being stuck out in the mountains, that's when you get the most creative and you start figuring stuff out, and it's fun. It's fun. You know, it's a challenge and it's fun. But if you bend a sprocket when you're out in the mountains and your chain won't stay on your sprocket, like, okay, well, what are we going to do? You know, you got to start.
You either rise up to the occasion or you just fall short, right?
Yeah, and you will become resourceful. You will figure it out if you think that you're going to. But okay, you know, you just next thing you know, you're grabbing a long skinny rock and you're sticking it through your wheel from the other side, and you take another rock and you're hitting that one to try to straighten your sprocket back out, and you get it back a little bit. Or there's always a way.
Right.
There's always a way, and hard enduro makes you find that way.
And that's what I think is cool about like amateurs seeing what the pros can do, is because it's like inspiring for them to try to attain some of that. And it's like that's what's cool about trying to show them more, like showing all the top guys training, because the amateurs can see what is possible, and then they're going to rise up to that. Like, it's inspiring for me as well. Like I've ridden my whole life, and thought I knew how to ride until I started riding with you. And I'm like, I don't know anything. Not only do I not have any fundamentals, I'm the long neck, 6'7" giraffe on the top of this bike with a huge camera bag. Like, I got it all stacked against me. And then I basically had to hit Control-Alt-Delete on my riding. And then, been riding with you guys now for a few years and still have so much to learn, but it's been cool. And I think a lot of people are in that same boat where they've ridden their whole life, have no fundamentals. And then all of a sudden they're like, they find hard enduro and they're like, there's a way to maneuver the bike in this whole new way. And it physically opens up new terrain. You can go more places when you're better. And so that's what's cool. I think there's a lot of people out there like me that are in that same situation.
It's so interesting how that dynamic has shifted over time too, because like for me, riding trails, I grew up riding trails with my dad in the mountains, and eventually those get kind of boring and you want to be challenged more. Like, okay, I'm ready. My technique is obviously good enough to handle these trails, but now I want more challenge. I want to learn new things. So I was almost pushed into the difficult terrain by wanting to challenge myself more. And then you guys are kind of learning like, oh, well, if I focus on the technique, then it can open up a new possibility of riding for me. So it's like you kind of access it from two different angles depending on your situation. And it's true. It's true, because there's something satisfying about going somewhere that a motorcycle, has or hasn't gone either way, but something that challenges you and the stuff that you find.
Yeah, that's the best part.
That's the best part.
Just going out there, being just solo or with a couple buddies, and you're out there on the middle of a forest or on top of a mountain, and you just see crazy stuff, see cool terrain, and it's accomplishing to like pop up onto a ridgeline and look out and realize how far you've come, through the valley, and then you just pick a different path on the way home. Like every minute is different. That's the best part. Like trails, you're in a box. Per se,
right? There's only so much creativity. I mean, you can get pretty creative on trails, but not being limited to certain types of riding trails or this or that can really open up your world. And I say it all the time, a dirt bike is the ultimate exploration vehicle. What better tool than a dirt bike for getting wherever you want to be?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go in the water. Okay.
Unless you're in Hawaii.
Unless
you just go into the water, but you don't come back out, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're anything like me.
So I'm told.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go climb a mountain, if you're good on a dirt bike, you can do it pretty efficiently. So I think it's cool in that way.
Yeah, and so it's been cool to see like the progression of the sport. People are getting more into riding hard enduro because they're seeing these different landscapes and they're kind of realizing like that they can go different places. So with the series, it seems like it's really grown a lot, like way more races on the roster now, way more signups, diversity. And it's just been cool to see kind of this whole thing growing. It's like a big wave.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to make it grow because it has so many more elements than basketball or pickleball or something, because you have this terrain that challenges the best riders, and then you need to get other people that are just interested in the sport that aren't the best riders. So you have to scale the courses down so they have something that's challenging but possible, so there's so many different things that make it difficult to scale and to grow, but we're working on it. And that's why it's great to have people like Matt Musgrove involved, the series director for the US Hard Enduro series, Josh Schecker, the course director. Yeah, the course director. He's been a huge part of it. And then me with the media stuff, and kind of also being a liaison for those guys wherever they need me or want my opinion. And then the communication between the clubs is huge also, especially this sport also. While I'm thinking about it, it's tough because we're in a sport that's supposed to be hard and it's supposed to be difficult, but it's almost a double-edged sword, because if it's so hard and it's so difficult, then nobody is going to show up.
Yeah, they're going to get beat down a little bit.
Yeah, you just want people to be challenged, but you want them to be able to overcome that challenge, have fun, see something new, and that's about it.
And it's a moving target. It sounds like,
Yeah.
just talking with Josh over the years, like,
100%.
he's got a tough job really trying to figure out what is possible for them, but also like make sure the amateurs have a good experience. And he's done a really good job like balancing that.
He has.
But it sounds like it's a sliding scale. The pros are just getting better and better and better. And that's evidenced with, just talking with brands. I mean, there's products that, brands that I've talked to that have to improve or beef up their product because it's actually getting wore down, and it normally wouldn't have, and they just have to make things thicker and stronger. And like, SX Slide Plate, talking with John, he's like, the guys are just really pushing the sport. So we're making things thicker and stronger now.
Yep.
And so that's cool to see. Like, a lot of sports are kind of saturated, or not at their peak, but like they've been fleshed out, a lot of the growth. Right.
Yeah.
And here it's like, we're still finding
change certain things, like how much can you grow. There's a lot of factors to it. There's a lot of factors to it. And with the course stuff, I mean, you have rain, dry. I mean, those are two
different things.
Totally different things with hard enduro. And then splits, no splits, knockout style formats, scoring formats. It's the tough thing to promote and put on. But I think it's moving in the right direction. And I think a big part of that was when Matt Musgrove got a hold of the series in 2021. 22?
21, I don't know.
This is when we started.
Something like that.
Right? So it had to have been 22.
Okay.
Right?
I don't know. I was before my time, technically.
Well, was it Matt's first year when he hired you?
I think so.
I
guess you're right. It was his first year.
Yeah. I think so.
Which is cool that he kind of took a chance with us, because I hadn't done anything in the industry before, and and he wanted me to make a 3-minute video, and then all of a sudden I'm like, there's a story here, and we got a 20-minute video, and then I kind of put him in a tough spot, because then I kind of set that expectation, or the people kind of wanted to see those recaps at that level, and then it just became like this big thing, and so I understand that there's costs that need to be saved, and so we're not doing it going forward. But what's cool is that people like Ryan and Evan and you have continued to make recaps and are continuing to grow the sport in that way. And then I've been able to focus on other things and try to promote the sport while guys are training and that kind of thing. So
100%. And I definitely want to talk about the stuff that you're working on. And to recap kind of what you're saying with the US Hard Enduro series, 100%. When you came on board and when I came on board in 2022 for sure, right? Yep. Then it was almost like there was a defibrillator that came and like jolted the series back to life. And I think that your recap movies helped a lot with that. Matt organizing the races, Josh being involved,
you being the face kind of
at the level, me kind of getting involved with everything that I do, and then having you guys make those recap videos. It was a nice little jolt to the series to kind of boom, we're doing this is happening, this is a better thing. And we did that for 2 years, and I think it did a lot for the series. I really do. And then
my goal with that was to try to show as much authenticity for the series. Like, there's cool things happening. There's a lot of effort being put in, and like, to not be able to show it in its proper light would be a shame, And so that's where it was cool hearing feedback from like Jim Flynn and saying like that we were able to memorialize his event in such a way that, I'm sure he would continue to do the races no matter what, but he made it sound like all that time and effort he puts in as a race promoter, it kind of like gave him it kind of memorialized it and validated it for him, like, and they just gives him more fuel to just keep going and keep growing and build these races. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. And it made it worth it for him. I mean, the guy works 8 months out of the year, 9 months out of the year to try to put on this race. All these promoters do,
right,
to put on these races. And normally there's nothing to show for it.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, pictures and stuff, but like,
there's a few photos and stuff,
but a lot of the story is not captured.
Exactly.
100%.
So to have that story brought to the people and accessible on YouTube for free was pretty sick.
That was a huge move for Matt. I mean, total props to him for trusting us with that, and he was always really awesome about letting us kind of run with the creative and find the story. I mean, it's all about what we see and what was going on out there. I mean, the race could be totally different from what your expectations are. So he was always really cool about, letting the story be what it is and keep it authentic. And that's where it was nice working with you to try to make sure things were real that we were showing. And like, if there were, just different shots we pick and stuff, I wanted to make sure that it was an authentic, true story. And my goal was to always make sure the racers felt like they were well represented.
Yeah.
We have some funny moments in there and stuff, but I wasn't trying to blast anybody, but we kept it real. But at the same time, it was like, just what happened. Right.
I feel like we did a pretty good job at highlighting everybody at their best.
Yeah. We showed some tough moments, but we showed everybody's best moments. And
yeah,
that was the goal. I wasn't ever trying to show people just flinging their bike on purpose, but like it happens.
Yeah.
But you got to have a few in there, or else it's not hard enduro.
Yeah.
race.
Well, they always had good endings. It's okay to show a failure, but when the rider overcomes that and continues moving forward, that's like the good
Just
stuff.
the story arc, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a resolution and there's a winner, and we saw a lot of Tristan Hart. So props to that guy. I had to get creative to show him.
Nobody won
14
except
times
for him.
winning.
Maybe it was you.
Yeah.
You're his good luck charm.
Yeah,
because he's the only winner the whole 2 years.
That's true. I was kind of telling Cody, like, man, I'm bummed I didn't get to, do your King of the Motos video just because, 13 races and then all of a sudden, you win one. But it's cool. Speaking of Cody, it was really cool hearing from him. He was always like on the sidelines with his injury, but he was like telling me, I was watching every video, and he was like, man, I'm just really jealous to see how the series is growing, and it's right before my eyes. But he just, a guy like that who's not even racing was out there promoting it by posting it. And, it's like he had kind of every right to not want to post it because he's not in it. And, that'd probably be a bitter moment, but he's got such a big picture view of the series. He was like the biggest fan of growing it, and that meant a lot. Showed a lot of his character, I would say.
100%. Cody is solid all the way through.
Solid.
I've known him for a long time. We were teammates on Beta when like 2012, 13, and maybe 14 and 15. I forget when he departed, but we were teammates for a while. And I stayed at his house and rode his track and hung out with him and his family. And I mean, his dad Kip and his mom and his sister, they're all so solid, super solid. And
the people's champ,
Yeah, exactly. And he's confident enough in himself that he's not scared to share.
That's cool.
And create and build the sport.
And I think that's what all the racers could really, kind of see and try to strive to. Just like, don't be afraid to share who you are, right? I think everybody has their own persona and they all are their own person, but you're not only as much as your last result, Like, I know it might be easy to think of that as a racer, but like you have a full personality, and you're bigger than that, and it comes out in the content and who you put yourself out to be. So it's been cool to see some of these younger guys like find their voice in the series and kind of open up and then let all the fans see who they are and support them, and it's just been a fun kind of community that way.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And you're right. Yeah, you're not only as good as your last race, or at least if you can develop the mindset to not base your self-worth on your race results, that's almost more empowering to be able to go get better race results than it is
it's like self-fulfilling probably.
Yeah, than to hate yourself for not having a good race result.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, we'll put it there next weekend, and it's all right. I know I'm not good enough.
Yeah, any elite athlete knows that there's failures and success, and it's not just only success. There's all the years of hard work that goes into it, and that's just part of it. So and in hard enduro, it seems like there's a lot of gnarly down moments. You're pinned under your bike, your gas is leaking down your boot, your radiator's broke. Like you're getting creative out there, and you're not just at a track that's groomed and, cruising around. Right. Like it's a raw environment out there.
It's all adversity.
Yeah. It's overcoming it for 4 to 5 hours, basically.
It's supposed to be hard.
Yeah. In the design. And that's what's funny about, like, we always joke, like the racers, I think you were telling me, is they talk about like whenever they say it's too hard or not hard enough, then the promoters go out and try to kill them the next year.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny how that is. Maybe they're getting trained to not say that it wasn't that hard, because then they realize it's just going to be harder next year. But
yeah, that's a tough balance. That's something that we are, as a series, are constantly struggling with, because if you make a race, I think this was a point that I was trying to make early, but I interrupted myself with something else. But if you keep making the race is harder and harder and harder, then nobody's going to show it. Then it kills the sport because like everybody's like, dude, I don't want to show up and spend $1,000 on new parts after this race and still not finish the race.
Right.
Just trying to whiskey throttle my bike up some gnarly ledge that I just don't have the skill to do.
Right.
And that's where scaling the courses down is just so key to being able to grow these races. Instead of just wanting the hardest race and viewing we're certified as the hardest race as the thing that's going to make your race the best. That's not what's going to make your race the best. What's going to make your race the best is that it's fun.
A good experience for the AMs too.
Good experience for the AMs.
Good challenge for the pros.
Exactly. Good challenge for the pros. That's why when I see Tristan Hart go to the promoters be like, wasn't hard enough, it needs to be harder. I get it. I get that. But part of me is almost like, ooh, like I don't want that promoter to take that personally, and then it comes out next year, and the AMs are the one that pay for it.
Yeah, because the pros are going to rise up to that anyway. The AMs are going to, be dragged into it in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And the cream always rises to the top. Even if the course is really hard instead of impossible, the same guys are going to win. Or you could make an argument that the same guys are going to win, and it might even be better racing if it isn't just like ridiculously hard.
Well, and I think that's what his picture of that is like it seems like his view is to always have the best challenge because he knows it's going to result in the best racing. Kind of interviewing him and stuff over the last couple of years, like he has a very like big picture view of like he was excited that Billy was going to be coming out to Silver Kings last year because he knew it would be a better race, even though it maybe was a chance that he might not win. But I think that's a cool perspective. So maybe that's part of why he's pushing for harder.
Yeah.
Is he knows he's going to be challenged that much more and maybe get a better performance.
Yeah. And I think it's also, you need an element of the races being really difficult to challenge the riders that are pushing the sport. I mean, just yesterday when we were out filming in the desert with Ryder and Tristan and Will, I've not raced for 2 years now. And we were in an area where I trained with Taylor for the years I was racing hard enduros, and these guys are making lines that are way gnarlier than what Taylor and I were making.
They're rock climbing.
They're rock climbing.
Vertical shelves. Yeah.
Vertical shelves. You can't expect regular people that are weekend warriors to do that.
Mere humans.
Yeah. So it's a really, but you do, it's almost like you owe it to the sport and you owe it to the riders to challenge them and send them up stuff like that. And that's why I'm a fan of the knockout style races, like what Jim does at Grindingstone.
That's the best format.
It's so good because you can have 3 different courses, just so much more work.
Yeah.
And it's usually a 2-day event because of that. But with that, you get amateurs competing on Saturday. Saturday basically turns into amateur day, and then Sunday's basically pro day. And the amateurs that raced on Saturday
get to watch the Sunday race.
They get to park their bike. They get to have a few beers Saturday night.
Yep.
And they get to go ride around with their wife, their girlfriends, their buddies, and watch some of the most incredible riding you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Watch these pros get pushed to their absolute limits. It's great for the sport.
Yeah, I think that format is the best, and the AMs get really tested, and then having the split format. It really brings a lot more people out on the course for Sunday too. It's a 2-day thing, and everybody gets a good amount of time on the racetrack. And I mean, after talking to some AMs, they're not really looking to get more time out there after 4 or 5 hours of a beatdown. Like they've spent their energy and really had a good time and felt like they got their money's worth. If you have a race where they get in a bottleneck and they're stuck for at the first 30 minutes, and just because their promoter wanted to make it really hard, and then they basically sit there for 3 hours pulling bikes up, like that's not really the route, right? It's making it a progressive race where they get to have time on the bike and challenge themselves, and they come home in one piece. Maybe they're bent up and beat a little, but that's part of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you want them to be able to come home and go to work on Monday. They need to be able to do that. So
to pay for those parts they just broke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
There is
exactly. But I'm a big fan of that format. And then it's also one big mountain race loop is also cool. And then you have races like Romaniacs and stuff where one big loop with splits is also a sick
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, that's the only thing about the knockout styles. You kind of get rid of the adventure aspect a little bit. You never
always
really
something new.
Yeah, you're never really quite out there alone, kind of having to figure it out. You get it's more of like a short course style, intense style.
Yep.
It's a different kind of style of racing.
selfishly on the film side, it's nice when they do the multi-format because we
Yeah.
get extra time to cover. The AMs get their own effort when it's pros and AMs in the same race and it's one race. It's really hard to split time between the amateurs and the pros because
Yeah.
pros are so much faster. They're lapping and stuff, and we'll catch them, and then we're on to the next spot to catch them, tell their story. But yeah, the split format is nice to be able to show some amateurs and
For sure.
and that's
And to create more of an experience for the weekend.
yeah.
The people are driving out there. They're filling all their tanks. They're filling the fridge. They're driving out there. Now they get to spectate and race and participate and be
Yeah.
involved.
It's inspiring too when they get to see what you guys can do, and then it's like, okay, they're going to come home with something they learned, seeing how
Exactly.
the pros rode person to person right there in
Yes.
front of them, and it's so inspiring. It's not always actual results may vary kind of deal, but you
Right.
put in the time to try to strive to get better, and so seeing the pros and seeing what's possible in that way is really part of it. I
It's
think.
true. And
Yeah.
not a lot of opportunities are there to see those guys ride. I mean, unless you're a hardcore enthusiast and you can be involved with the sport, these guys aren't looking for people to ride with. You know what I mean? So it's like
They're not,
you're
yeah.
not going to see these guys ride very often, it's a great chance for spectators to see.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I guess, a good segue for. I've been working on Hard Enduro Burros as kind of a side project to try to show the top 8 guys right now, training. And so we've got Cooper, Max, Will, Tristan, Ryder, Danny, and James Flynn, I believe is all 8. And the idea is to just kind of show these guys in their training environment, and for each of them it's something different, but it means something different. But when they're out there, 3 or 4 of them, and they're working on lines, like that's normally never seen. And even Tristan was just telling me the other day, he's just like, we have a long way to go to show what we do, but he's like, it's really cool what you're doing to try to show that, because it's mind-boggling to me. Like yesterday, a great example, we go out and film these cliff lines, and they're absolutely sending their bikes up and down, cartwheeling, and I have a hunch that if I wasn't there, they'd be doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
If I wasn't filming it, they would have done the same thing and nobody would have known. And it's not about showing it off. It's about showing what's possible. And the progression is so visible when you see, like, year over year what these guys are doing. And like you say, it's just like new terrain and new lines. It's cool to show that to people to kind of see,
Yeah.
what you can do on a dirt bike.
Yeah, for sure.
It's mind-blowing, really, all the time. I see a lot of it now. I've edited 12 terabytes of footage of hard enduro stuff probably, and it's still crazy to see what these guys do.
It's so crazy. Dude, it's crazy. I think it's crazy. I mean, that stuff that they were hitting yesterday was like, dude, I don't even want to do that well.
It may not be worth it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even know if it's worth it.
We got you a taste of the media side where it's like, okay, maybe you don't need to do it.
Yeah,
It's all good.
it's the good life now.
Yeah. Pick your battles.
Well, plus I'm not like supported like that, and I don't want to just thrash all my shit and have to fix my bike. Like, I'd rather be able to ride tomorrow. So I gotta like know when to dial it back. And I mean, I'm not gonna have a dick measuring contest with Tristan Hart.
Probably not
Will
going
Reardon and Ryder LeBlanc. Like,
There's nothing to prove.
It's not going to be a good contest for me.
Yeah.
Those guys are going up stuff that, I mean, yeah, I don't.
It's mental.
It's mental.
But what's been cool with this project is like everybody has been really into the idea of putting the time into it and to get content. Like,
yeah, like, let's go.
Because like I said, film crews always slowing people down, especially if I'm unable to get to a zone or whatever. So that's been a challenge for me, is to progress enough to where I can hang and actually get to go. But the guys all want to show the sport and grow it and get more people into it. So they've been very adamant or very open to giving me their time, which is cool. Yeah. And so we got together and did like a 4-day shoot to start out. And that was really cool to shoot some episodes, got a lot of content there, kind of got a weather delay, but it's cool to see that they're treating it seriously and that you guys are wanting to have this stuff made, I guess.
Yeah.
And it makes me stoked.
Yeah, I think all the riders are pretty stoked about anybody that's willing to come out there and get content, because it does take a special person to be able to get out there and get that content. And it's been cool to watch you grow too, because it's like your riding's been getting better. So your passion for the sport's kind of been growing the last few years that you've even been in it.
Yeah, because I've been new to it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you came. So backing up, we did the US Hard Enduro Series videos for 2 years, and then at the start of this year, you're not doing them anymore just because the series needed to go a little bit more simple direction. So we're trying to put out a little bit more short form, easy to digest, quicker YouTube.
I was never
content.
fast.
He was never fast.
Never fast.
And you know, you understand it, but like, you know, as it's been described, like the hype after an event just kind of comes down, you know, every day after the event. So it's like when you're catching it down here, when the hype was up here, it's just you're losing your punch factor, but what you're getting is like this really high quality production.
But it's a trade-off like anything.
It's a trade-off like anything. So it's not like you were doing, I don't think that you were doing anything wrong, but we just needed to like adjust the program to fit what we had and something that was scalable for the future. And I feel like that's going to open up the opportunity for you to find another lane because you're passionate about hard enduro. That might even be more better for more your style, which would be even better for the hard enduro community anyway.
Well, it's like you say, more is better in a way. So it's like there's some recaps still being made with Ryan and you guys still doing that. And then I can also be covering something that really wasn't covered very much per se, just kind of phone videos and stuff. Like, I don't think there's a lot of guys trying to bring out the big drone and the red camera and stuff out to these random zones. So it's kind of cool to kind of do that. And not a lot of people are, I guess. So it's cool to show it and then also have the series still be covered. And there's still, because that shouldn't not be seen, you know?
Right.
Like, definitely would be the last thing I want is that less eyes are on the series, you know? Because, I mean, we could both sit here and talk for hours about how much work Matt puts in. I mean, it's unbelievable. He wears so many hats. So, you know, props to him for the tenacity he has to grow it. He's really passionate about it.
Yeah, we're lucky to have Matt. And the guy's just a savage. He doesn't eat.
Yeah, we got to work on that. We got to get him on. Let's get some steaks in that guy's fridge.
We got to get.
He's on the ramen program, I think. I mean, he can perform on like ramen. I got to eat protein or else I'm not performing.
He doesn't even want food.
No,
it's like
he just goes. I don't think he sleeps too much either.
I don't know.
Runs like 5 or 6 social media accounts.
Yeah,
a couple businesses.
He's a special
shop.
human.
Yeah,
he's very special. I don't know how he gets it all done. But
that's why the team that you know, the three of you guys really, Josh and you and Matt are just like a powerhouse, really. I mean, the series got like this defibrillator jumpstart, like you said, just shocked it into order, and now it's humming along. But you know, it takes an army, right?
It does. Yeah, it does. It takes a lot of work. Yeah, I mean, I know, and it's such like the whole crew. Matt is just never let you down. Evan Ask, who's been filming with me, is always so solid. Evan and I got stuck out in the mountains in Hawaii. It got dark out, and he didn't have a light, and then his battery died. And next thing you know, we're in this situation. We're trying to get out of the Hawaiian mountains with one light.
But who else would you rather be with? And, you know, I mean, a guy like that. You know, it's awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
He's the guy you want to be lost with.
Yeah, exactly. And neither one of us were that worried about it. We just kind of handled it and figured our way out of there. It took us a couple hours, but we made it happen. And then, you know, we get back and Josh is sitting back at camp with his boots and all his gear on, one text away from coming out there and trying to get us out. So it's like,
talk about the guy who's like had the gear on the longest and he has the longest days of anybody there.
Most
probably.
Amount of time in boots out of everybody.
And all he's looking for is a little bit of food at the end of the day, maybe a beer or whatever, you know. So Rachel like hit him with some food a couple times at the races, and I think that was like all he needed. You know, like he's maybe like me, just feed me and I'll work, you know. You're probably like that too.
I am.
You know, just good food in and performance out, you 100%. Know.
Dude, it's almost necessary for me. Like if I eat like garbage, I really struggle.
Same.
Maybe it's because I'm running on half a brain cell and I need to keep that thing going. But,
a few concussions.
I don't know.
No, I think it's just your body has adapted to quality food and like its performance, right? And you know, a lot of protein in is a lot of performance out.
It is. I agree. Yeah, and I want to be high performance and be able to have my brain and my body.
Yeah.
But back to what you're doing with the Hard Enduro Burros. So now that you're not doing the series, now you're segueing into like more of a cinematographic.
We'll go with that
style.
Yeah,
of shooting the practice and the different lifestyles of these riders and kind of adding to the content pool in a different way.
Yeah, so it's I'm trying to not really be in the vlog lane. It's not really that, but there are formal interviews. You know, it's kind of like high quality content of these guys doing crazy moves in unique landscapes, and then having you guys talk about your bike setup, your technique, So, you know, and a little bit about the camaraderie, because I think that's super unique, and just kind of marrying all those things together in a format where people learn something from you guys. They get to see some cool terrain, they get to see some cool moves, and it maybe inspires them to get out and ride. And, you know, it's just unique that you have like basically the top portion of the field of hard enduro racers all cool with each other training. I mean, like, you know, what sport do you have your quote unquote arch rival or whatever, not rival, but just your competitors like training with you and you're hanging out, and like it just struck me as so unique.
It is unique.
And so this Burros concept is cool, getting you guys all together, you know, Cody, Tristan, Ryder,
like a pack of Burros that competes on the weekends but hangs out
yeah
during the week.
Yeah, it's unique, right?
Very unique.
It's very unique, and it's cool to see because you guys push each other in a fun way, and then the riding gets insane. I mean, it's already insane, but it gets crazy.
And I think we need each other too, we being the hard enduro riders, because you don't really want to go riding by yourself when you're adventuring. So,
right.
You know, you compare that to something like motocross. You know, you can be more secretive with what you're trying to do with motocross. Like, I'm just working on small things. I have my coach. My coach is here. He's watching me ride. We're experimenting with different lines and bike setup. And I don't really want my competitors to know all these little 1% gains that I'm making all the time, where with hard enduro, it's like you need people to ride with. You don't want to ride by yourself. And we're all having fun anyway. So it's more fun riding with your buddies anyway. And I think that's one of the things that makes it so unique and so special and bitchin'. Yeah,
and that's kind of what drew me into wanting to just be so involved, is because that's so rare. Like, you just don't see that. And I've filmed a lot of things, motocross, supercross, street racing, whatever, off-road, trophy truck, like all these things. Nobody's like that. And so it's like, okay, I want to latch onto that and show it and keep it going and share that. And so I'm hoping with these episodes, you can really see how you guys are all buddies at the end of the day. I mean, it wasn't that hard of a sell to say, hey, can I get all 8 of you guys to go stay in an Airbnb together and we'll go film? I mean,
nobody had a problem with the other guys.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hardest part was just getting you guys to all have the same schedule. That's the hard part.
Sure, it is. For you as the film guy and an observer of the Burro Pack, and being able to like see this and be a part of it, what is there a common trait that all these guys have that kind of unifies them into a pack? Is it just the nature of the sport? Like, what have you observed?
I think there's a level of humility that these guys have that's like pretty rare. I mean, everybody's pretty humble. You know, nobody's like trying to, like, everybody wants to prove themselves, but it's like in like, here's my performance and this is what I'm going to do to be good, and we'll see where I land. Right. It's not like you guys want to beat each other, and I say you guys, but the guys are racing, but like, it's not like I want to tear them down to build me up. It's, I want them to come with their A game. I'm coming with my A game, and we're going to see where we land, and we'll both be better racers as a result. So I think like the humility from Tristan at his level is unheard of, and same with Cody. You know, really all the guys are very humble, and that just is super cool. It always came out in the interviews. Like it was always fun. We were trying to get people to like poke fun at each other and kind of, you know, raise a little drama and stuff to kind of make the episodes interesting. And it was like hard to get because the guys weren't like that. They're not tearing each other down. They're not dogging on each other. Like, they'll joke around, but it was never like, you know, any attacks or like the rivalries we made were kind of, we made them like they weren't heavy duty, you know?
Yeah. It's hard to like get them mad at each other. They're all so mellow.
Yeah.
Once you get a couple beers in them, then they want to wrestle each other.
Yeah. The wrestling, that's a real thing with those guys. Watch out, you know? Yeah. I think you were talking about maybe doing an underground wrestling ring here at your place.
Boxing,
maybe.
I think.
Boxing. There you go.
Better.
Yeah. There you go. Not so much spandex.
I don't know if I want Tristan Hart ankle picking somebody, dropping him on the concrete. He gets a little crazy when he gets.
And if we had to have like a Cody Danny lineup, like if they drew the wrong straws, that'd be tough.
Yeah, right. Like a bracket
Poor
style.
Guy. Yeah.
Bracket, like first, like Ryder has to fight Tristan, and then we'll get one of them, and then Cody has to fight Danny.
Right. That'd be brutal. Yeah. But speaking of brackets, I mean, you know, one of the episodes that, you know, we shot that we can't talk about who won, but it was kind of cool. We did a skills-based episode, and you were there, and we had all the 8 guys competing in some hard enduro challenges for $500 cash. It was the USWE Pro Burros Challenge, and you know, I think everyone will be pretty stoked to see who came home with the gold on that one. And you know, it might not be who you're expecting. So, you know, it was fun to get everybody out, put them through some challenges. We did a head-to-head bracket up a hard enduro canyon. Got a little dirty at times, a couple of different, you know, sneaky moves from some guys, creative lines we'll call it, and you know, did some parking lot tricks, and so it was kind of fun to see everybody perform in like a fun way, but they, you know, had some bragging rights and a few bucks on the line.
Super fun. Yeah, it's a good time for sure. And these guys are it's all such a competitive spirit that they thrive off of, you know, especially a guy like Tristan Hart or a guy like Ryan. I mean, honestly, the top 5 guys for sure. They're all so competitive, and they get better when
they rise up.
They rise up. When there's guys that are as good or better than them around them, they find a way for that to make them better. They don't tuck their tail between their legs when the pressure and get soft and get second guessy. They seem to get more, especially a guy like Tristan Hart. I mean, that guy is as competitive as they come, and you start getting him excited about something, he starts screaming and yelling and going for it and revving his bike, and he'll ghost ride his bike, and it's like
his energy levels
like, whoa.
And he'll even get competitive about other things. Like, you know, I remember one time he asked me if he was the best interviewer. And so to mess with him, I was like, well, you know, you do pretty good, but, you know, there's some other guys that rip some good lines. And, you know, and then he's like, okay, he takes that home as like he logs that in his files. And then he comes back, works on that and gets better. And then he was ripping better lines on the next interview.
It's pretty sick.
And so I think that's how he organizes his life, is like steps and progressions, you know, towards like these goals that he sets. And that's a cool winner's mindset, I think, of like being able to break down what steps you need to improve. But yeah, just to be that competitive though, like it's not how I tick, but you know, it's cool to see. And then they use it as a way to fuel themselves. They don't ever like tear each other down with it.
It's crazy.
Even being that competitive.
Yeah. I feel like it probably is a hard balance to find when they're practicing together, because you still want the guys to know that you're going to beat them on the weekend at the end of the day.
It's so interesting knowing that they're kind of all together like 4 days before a race doing that.
Yeah, I know.
And then like there's got to be a mental side to how you perform on the practice day, because like if you don't show up and you just take it easy, is that a perception that you're not ready for the weekend? Or are they going to think you're just taking it easy?
Well, that's
long game?
What makes training together and having that camaraderie difficult.
It's a dynamic.
Is the competitive nature of it, and the ego of the ego will cloud your judgment of what is best for you. Sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
you might want to send a line on the practice day because everybody else did that maybe on paper doesn't really make sense.
Maybe maybe it doesn't make sense, or maybe you're a little overtrained and maybe you shouldn't even be on the bike that day.
And you're already ready.
Yeah, and maybe you should just be chilling resting,
recovering.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what's so
maybe your deficiencies on race day aren't what the other guy's deficiencies are, but if you're just going to go do his program, then you're not really improving where
you need it.
Yeah, where you need it, or where you're going to get the most out of it. So it's hard, but that's what you learn with experience too. You know, I feel like that's just all. Yeah, I mean,
it's something I'm always curious about. And like, you have a perspective. Like, would you say that there's an element of like when you're an elite athlete, you focus on yourself, and not try to like put yourself in their shoes and just focus on, like, it sounds like in the interviews I've done with you guys, it's like, let's focus on what I can do to be my best, and I don't care about what everybody else does. Like, is that kind of how you would approach like a race, or how does
That's how I do it.
Yeah.
That's how I approach it. I mean, if I start thinking and caring about how Tristan Hart or whoever is going to do what any competitor is going to do at a race, I'm just giving energy to them from my brain.
Yeah.
So I can't control their race. I can't control the race. I wouldn't want to, but what I need to stay focused on the things that I can control. And what can I control? Well, I can control what I eat. I can control my mind space. I can control my breath work. I can control my bike for the most part, my decisions. All right, let's just focus on doing all that right. And it's going to start.
And then it'll come together, I bet.
And it's going to come together, I bet. And if I'm stressed out about this race, let's just start right now. You know, I feel like it's leading up to the race is the worst. It's like it's like when you get punched in the stomach, it's the weight that hurts. It's not when it actually happens. You're like, I was ready for it. It wasn't bad, but it's waiting for it. You're like, oh,
yeah, anticipation.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably season opener is really crazy. I would think for those guys to like, you know, not know where everybody's at for 2 months.
Yeah,
except they kind of train together a little, right? But maybe they keep a few tricks to themselves. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah, the season
What would
opener
you
is
say?
definitely like the big opener. I don't know. It's tough because they do ride together so much, and they kind of know where they're at, I feel.
Yeah.
But
So it's like whoever can put together the best race on the day, right? I mean, everybody has
Yeah.
their skill set, and you have good days and bad days, but do they just put more weight into that? And, you know, you might perform well at the training day, but just like it doesn't matter because it's not the race day.
racing is so much different than practice, and I think that's the only way where you can sort of get out of that is you can know, like, racing is different than practicing no matter how hard you try. Even if you're doing motos with the guys, same amount of time, trying to win, it's really good simulation. But when actual race day comes, it is always different.
A lot more nerves, I would think. A lot more mental side of it.
A lot more everything. You're always going to try a little bit harder when you're racing, and everything's different. It's all different. So, you know, that's where a lot of guys, I think, are deficient, is they don't race enough. You know, I think racing is really good. Like, you take a guy like Tristan or Cody, who's some of the best. Those guys have done a lot of racing throughout their career. I mean, Tristan Hart's done hare scrambles, big long desert races, hard enduro, enduro cross, local races. He'll show up for a local race just to go
refine something or work on something. Probably just
see what you learn. Practice racing. That's why. To practice racing.
And I guess that's where things like, you know, Cody at King of the Motos this year, you know, with his racecraft, you know, not pitting, like maybe, I don't know, is that a part of his experience knowing that he could do that? I mean, or was that just he made the right move and they just didn't choose to try to not pit? I mean, it seems like he knew that he could do that based on how the race would play out. Like, it's almost like he visualized, like, okay, I needed to be ahead of them leading into that in order to, and be broken away so that they can't follow. And then that's my move.
Yeah. I think he said he planned on doing that
from the get-go.
And he had looked at the fuel and like knew that it was going to be okay. Or if we're at this spot during this lap with the fuel, then I can go for it. And that was a really smart move. That was a veteran move, because that was what he needed, because he got far enough away from those guys where they couldn't read his lines and they couldn't see him.
They can't see those Goody lines.
Yeah, they couldn't. All they could see was those little hoof prints they left all over the place.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I've another kind of thing I've been fortunate to work with on him is the CW2 training platform. And it's, speaking of hoof prints though, it's just been mind blowing to me. Like when I get him one-on-one and we're out here like filming a module on like splatters or something, like how crazy those hoof prints really are. Like side hopping and just like I've seen a little bit of hard enduro in the last couple of years and like kind of can see a couple lines and say, what do you think about this or that? And then, you know, the lines that the racers are picking to go do when we go film are like something that's a lot of times something I would never even think about. And it's especially true with Cody. Like, he just is so confident that he can do what he needs to do that he doesn't even think about it.
The confidence is the craziest part.
Like, probably just he knows in his head that he can do something, and then he just does it. Like, the rest of us, I'm speaking for me, like, I'm on little things. I'm like, can I even do that? You know,
he
just knows.
Yeah, that's a good question for him. It's like, how did you get your confidence that steady,
right,
and that high?
I wonder if it's just like you say, racing over the years so many times that you just incrementally get a little more confidence.
Well,
maybe?
His bike skill is on another level. I mean, with his trials background, and then, you know, he's a really good trials rider. He has a trials national championship, and he's big and tall, so he actually rides a full-size dirt bike really well. And the guy's his depth of talent is very deep. That guy's got skill on a motorcycle, big time skill, and that's still where he's going to get guys.
And that's coming from you.
Yeah.
Who's got big time skill.
Well, I mean, not but on the level that Cody is. I mean, this race last weekend or 2 weekends ago, last weekend in Hawaii, in Oahu, Cody was the only one that rode that course without getting any help. Everybody else helped each other.
That's impressive.
Yeah, he pushed in spots and pushed his way up some of this stuff, but I mean, there was one hill that Evan and I rode that we had to help each other on, and it was like this off camber, rooted, straight down, no run, just terrible hill, and he got up that thing on his own. And
he has a little bag of tricks he can pull from, I think, when things get really sour.
So too. He doesn't panic. He just he keeps it pretty mellow, I feel like.
We have had to use the bleep button a few times on his GoPro.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I wouldn't
yeah.
call it panic, agreed, but he definitely he expels some energy.
I think there's some, I think he had some good things to say at the first race in Kauai also. I think he was pretty fired up. But
maybe someday I'll pull all those bloopers out and have like a leaked account where we get all that out to the world.
Meltdowns only.
Yeah, well, that was your idea. That was a great idea. I think that'd be great.
So you're back to your Hard Enduro Bros. So what's your episodes? Is it one movie? Is it episodes? What does it look like?
So 6 to 8 episodes to start. They're long form on YouTube, so you can go subscribe. Hard Enduro Burros on YouTube. It's a brand new account, so we got not a lot going on there yet, but looking to launch these in April. First couple episodes will kind of show who the riders are and that kind of thing, and then we'll launch into the Burros Challenge, and then I've got a couple other concepts that I don't want to leak quite yet of how they're going to come together, but basically long form on YouTube, and then I've been posting reels and stuff on social media to kind of drum up some interest, and hopefully people enjoy the episodes. I mean, it's something that's not really seen, I think, right now that much. It's phone videos and things, and I'm putting in a lot of effort, and you guys have put in a lot of effort, and some brands have really stepped up. Usui being the title sponsor has been awesome to have them.
Sick.
Yeah, they really said, Hard Enduro is our bread and butter, and we want to, be all in on this. So it's cool to have them, and of course everybody runs their packs across the board, which is it's hard for me trying to put this together to get sponsorships to try to have brands that cross over to everybody, and it's tough. But Usui was one that is just. It's the go-to, right? IRC stepped up too, so that's cool. Bulletproof Designs really stepped up. Talking with Bud, he really likes supporting Hard Enduro, and so that's awesome. And then Smart Carb, Crosslink Components. Crosslink was our first sponsor. They believed in us first with Burros, so that's cool. They get extra cred there for really jumping in right off the bat when I hadn't heard on email replies from other brands, but they saw the value in seeing more of this sport content wise. So that's been cool. And so, yeah, it's cool to see brands value this too. They obviously want results from their racers, but I think they see the value of media and eyes on things, and just that, this stuff's got to be grown, and it takes dollars to get you guys all there and travel and the things that go into production. So, just appreciate all the sponsors who've kind of stepped up. It's been cool.
Yeah. And what was your approach coming into this? Like once you stopped doing the series stuff, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to do my own thing. I want to film these Burros episodes. What was your approach and your plan, and how did you put that together and make something that was appealing to the sponsors? And how did you do that?
Well, it all kind of relied on the fact that I was asking myself, will this even work? This idea of showing these guys training and working, on their skills together. Are they even going to be willing to all go to the same place and train and stay in the same house? And, cause I got to book just one Airbnb when I do these shoots. But once I knew that, and that was great talking with you, that you're always kind of the in-between, yes, this could work, right? You gave me the confidence that everybody is chill and that it's going to work. So once I had that, then I basically wrote a creative brief, and it basically is like a pitch paper that has 3-4 pages, has images, and it has the concepts. It has a deliverable timeline, and then it shows basically what I'm looking to accomplish. I had bios of all the riders, and a proposed budget, and like I said, a timeline. And then I think the key with trying to get sponsorship dollars is explaining to them what they're getting in return, and being really explicit about what you are promising, because I think racers want to offer their result as their item they're delivering to a sponsorship, but I think that's only part of it, right? And so you kind of have to look at racing and your following and your social media presence as a whole package. So I wrote the creative, pitched that to some brands, and then really just relying on the relationships that through you and Matt and Josh and letting me be part of the series, I really relied on that heavily, just and super grateful for you guys opening all those doors and having kind of a place to a mountain to stand on or whatever. We had a little bit of room to kind of ask for things because we had such a successful track record with 13 rounds. I think we slam dunked it with your help, and so that was cool to have that. People the brands were open to supporting something from the ground up. And I told them, I can't promise big social media numbers right now. We're starting from nothing, but I mean, anything with you 8 guys, get Cody and Tristan and Ryder and everybody all together, it's going to grow. It's just going to take time, right? It's like planting seeds. So that's kind of how there's some back and forth. Different brands want different things. USWE being a title sponsor, they get, a pre-roll commercial in each of the episodes, which I'm shooting with Will. So that's kind of a cool synergy there, because then I just get more footage of Will and I get to promote them. And so, it's all about finding out what your brand needs, and then offering that, and within your toolkit, and this is what I do is content. So I want something that's usable for them.
And when you're communicating with these sponsors, what's your best way of finding out what they need?
Talking to them in person at races. I mean, that's really important. Picking up the phone. I think that like sending them a DM on Instagram maybe will get you the contact to who to email, but that email should be, hey, I've got a concept. Can I pitch it to you? Can we talk on the phone? And there's no substitute for just talking on the phone and, making that connection, showing that you want to know what they need and asking them. It's not about what I'm offering them at that point. It's where are your needs? Do you have sponsored athletes who don't get you enough content that you need? And so can I be that gap? Can I bridge that gap?
What bridge can I gap for you?
Yeah. And then once they kind of communicate what they need, then I say, can I pitch you on, my concept? And then I come back with them with an email with a pitch paper that shows it. Cause I think there's no better way to pitch a visual concept than with an email, because you can't visualize it over the phone. But
right.
So understanding their needs 100%. And then kind of sending examples of your work and what you offer, and then just kind of following up.
Yeah, that's where that communication is so important, because if you just have like a blanket advertising deal that you send out to a whole bunch of people, you might catch one, but what if what they need isn't exactly what you've set forth? But that's why picking up the phone is so important, because you're not going to know what they need by going back and forth via email. You have to build a rapport with them, speak with them on the phone, let them know that you're a real person and that you're actually...
And that you care.
Yeah, and that you care. Yeah. And that you're not just looking for
just
support.
Checking a box.
You're not just looking for a free ride and some money. You're looking to fill your needs and their needs somehow.
Yeah, and I think the sport is too small to just, look at it that way, the other way. You can't burn bridges, and everybody's trying to grow it. And so finding a way to make things a win-win is really important, and making sure you fulfill what you've promised. I know for a fact, working with brands, they get left down. They get let down, from commitments, empty promises from people across the board. It just happens. Film crews do it, athletes do it, other brands do it. And so I know when I'm pitching something, I have to overcome like a potential chip on their shoulder that they've been burned and they're not as willing to sponsor when they've had that history. And I don't blame them, like if you're going to do something that you say you're going to do, try to do it. So that's where I think like having a real conversation of like, this is what I'm actually doing. And then, for us having kind of a leg to stand on with the recaps, Hard Enduro Heroes, like I kind of had a little bit of a landing.
Credibility.
Yeah. And through you guys, and especially you, being the face of it. So, that was arguably kind of a crutch, I guess. But just having a track record, if people know who you are and that you deliver, if you just deliver day in, day out, then people aren't going to question it. They're going to be stoked to support stuff.
And that's why doing something that you enjoy doing holds so much value, because
100%.
That the work that you put in with the series is going to pay dividends for your future in the world of hard enduro. And if you do stuff that you like to do, then you're going to be operating within a space that's going to serve you more down the line. And you're just seeds get planted, and they get planted everywhere. It's like starting this podcast. It wasn't very hard because I'm already in the space. I'm already here. So it's like we're just going to start, and we're just going to start rolling. But it's because of everything else that I've done in this space already is why this even makes sense at all.
Right. The position that you've put yourself in and that you've built over the years, you're now taking that and running with it.
Right.
And it's like you say, it's easy to say to just do this podcast, but it is a ton of work you've been putting in to build this. And, I think it's cool that you're putting in the time and focusing on it, because there's a lot of even way more interesting people than me that you'll have on here, guaranteed. All these racers that have done real things, and so you got a lot of legends on here and stuff. So it's just, it's really cool to see that you went from racing to focusing more on media, because like you're in that perfect space between the two. You know, you're dangerous enough in media, and you're still cranking on the bike, but you know all these people, and you get along with a lot of people, and everybody knows you, and so it's just like a cool intersection of everything.
Yeah, it seems like a natural transition for me, you know, natural fit. And it's funny because I feel like I'm the anti-media guy. You know what I mean? I don't really know all the technical stuff, and I don't really care about it either. What I do know about is dirt bikes, having fun, and that's about it.
Yeah, but I mean, having the tools to put it together between your team is what's important.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be one person doing everything.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, 100%.
And this just is totally like how one thing that I think about with Matt is he's always been somebody who like invests in good people and lets you run with it. Like he totally trusts. He just assembles the best team, gives you full latitude, and that's rare.
That's
you know,
super rare.
And so I kind of see that with him.
Yeah,
you know?
it's crazy. He'll just like after the race, he's like, "How was fall cam? Did you get everything you need?" I'm like, "Bro, we're good. It's so good." He's like, "Sick."
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, if he somehow got involved with what I was doing with that, like, would it be any better anyway? You know, you never.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he didn't need to be in the weeds on stuff in that way because he's arguably so busy anyway. But that's what was so cool is like with our recaps, he just let us go do what we wanted and had some input and stuff. But like he let the story be the story, and you know, so like with this podcast, you're letting the story be the story. I mean, you're not pushing a bunch of things. You're kind of like just talking through stuff and telling the story that you're seeing real time. You know?
Yeah, and once again, nobody's going to listen to the podcast that was never made. And I think one of the things that sparked me to start this was I was looking for a Destry Abbott podcast. I was like, I want to learn a little bit about Destry. So I looked for a Destry Abbott podcast, and there was like a couple, and I just didn't really like the way that they were done. And I'm like, there should be a Destry Abbott podcast, you know?
Right.
So, and then I was like thinking more and more, and then Cody got on Gypsy Tales, and I'm like, and it was like a celebration for us. We're like, yeah, somebody got a platform. One of our guys got on a platform, and it's like, wait, why don't we have our own platform?
Yeah.
For our guys to speak
100%.
on, and we're in a place where we can talk about, you know, issues in the sport and discuss different topics and add nuance to things and you know, create some more stuff around the sport that we all love. And that was kind of the thought process behind it.
All things that are great in life are born out of necessity and, you know, out of a big need or desire. And, you know, you kind of saw that. And so why wait for somebody else to make it when, you know, it's not going to be made or whatever.
No.
You know, you got to do things yourself if you want it done right in a way. So, and you're the guy for it too, which is really cool. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's the beginning of
We've seen.
I think it's the beginning of a long journey. It's kind of a big commitment because, you know, you go from being, you're giving up your anonymity in a way. Like I'm not, you know, best case scenario, a lot of people see this and watch this, you know, but then a lot of people are seeing it and watching, and I'm putting words and ideas out there, and, you know, it's you know, going down that road, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Because it grows the sport. And it tells everybody else's stories too.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun. Like I like talking about stuff and learning from you and people outside the industry, hopefully, and people within the industry. And I think that's the whole point.
Yeah. I think you're definitely along that path now and towards that mission for sure.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you, dude. I mean, we could sit here and talk about dirt bikes all day.
That's true.
What else you got for me? You got anything else for me?
I don't know. Any funny moments? I was trying to think back to like any of the funniest moments that we had.
We've had a few big ones.
But that's where my memory is like, okay, I don't know. I'll have to ask Rachel what the funny ones were.
Yeah. Honestly, it was funny the whole time.
It was funny. We kept it fun.
Between the long neck jokes and then the short back jokes when you had a bulging disc, which, man, I thought that was funny.
At Grindingstone last year,
I
could barely move. I could barely get in and out of that UTV.
That was not funny. I genuinely felt your pain. I was like, dude, that's got it.
Well, and I pre-rode with you the day before and did that get off and landed, you know, jumped down a few feet, and you were just like, okay, that was probably the worst thing possible for this guy. He's already complaining about his back, but luckily I got all fixed up this year, so I'm feeling better than ever. So
yeah. And what'd you do? How'd you get your back fixed up?
I got a PRP injection from a company called Regenix. They basically take the blood out of your arm, separate the platelets, and then re-inject them into the actual disc with like a ultrasound and X-ray. It's pretty cool.
I've had that done on ribs and my shoulder and sternum and stuff. And it worked for you?
Yeah, I went to the clinic that like they invented it, the doctor in 2005. So I kind of got lucky there, but I think there's a lot of clinics that offer it and it's maybe not as good, but I got lucky that was where they came up with it and, you know, have the whole procedure. And so, I would say like 80% better. Definitely in a lot better place. Like I'm happy to deadlift my bike now and carry the 30-pound pack and whatnot. And, you know, I'm sure I still have a bulging disc. They'll never not be bulging, but I have a functional living life that's not short back no more. I'll take the name, but I don't think I have the short back as much anymore.
It's long again.
Yeah.
Dude, it's crazy that you can get that without having surgery and that it can be better. When I did my shoulder one time, I had like a torn labrum and I got those injections and like 3 weeks later after you know, exercises and stuff, it was like noticeably better. And then I got my range of motion back. I was like, wow, that stuff actually works.
Yeah, it was cool because otherwise it was fused back for me, which, I mean, you know, at 30 years old or whatever, 28 when they were talking about it, like, I'm not going to get
How old are you now?
33. Yeah, going on 18, but, you know. Still live in a camper down by the river.
Yeah.
5 years strong on that. But
that's pretty wild. The camper life is pretty wild, especially with that long ass neck, dude. How do you even get that thing inside that camper shell?
You got to duck. You know, it's just something you learn when you're 6'7" is like you walk through doorways. Doesn't matter what it is. You just have a tendency to duck and, you know, just I'm not going to wear a helmet everywhere I go. And I just keep hitting my head on shit. So, like, guess I'm just going to duck.
Everything you hit with that big ass fucking head.
Pretty much, yeah. Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, nothing's built for me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and when I'm on the bike, everybody, you know, is getting a good laugh out of that because I look like a total giraffe. But
it's not bad.
It's
ever since you started dropping your heels, it got better.
Lowered an inch or two.
Yeah,
well, you know, I learned that from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And actually, I have on record now, Cody said it's okay to have bar risers if you're above like 6'5", 6'6".
Okay.
You know, according to him, because everybody's giving me shit I got bar risers. And I didn't know any better because I had them, you know, just had them. And, you know, I do have video proof from the GOAT that if you're a freak and you're 6'6" or whatever, you can have a little bar riser, and that's probably a good idea.
Open up the cockpit a little
bit. But that's
bit.
Just one opinion. You know, everybody else is like, lower that shit down.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
you know.
there's a limit. I mean, I think that the bar risers, you know, you get these. I see some bikes, and I'm like, what?
Well, you've seen my bike.
They got handlebars that are this much higher, boom, that much higher. Full wraparound handguards.
That's the problem.
All that weight way up high, and then because the wraparounds are in the way, so they can't put their perches in the right spot. So their levers are all like wonky, and then they're
not
heavy.
pushed in at all.
Yeah, they're not,
like gripping on the hardest part of the lever.
Exactly,
right?
And it's just like not ideal. And I'm like, dude, have you ever ridden a stock bike before? It felt pretty good, huh? Yeah, that's probably because there wasn't all this stuff on your bike.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. That's like a big thing that you taught me. I mean, I know you have a nickname for my bike that I have, like what do you call it? The retired B class.
40-plus-year-old general contractor,
yeah,
bike.
With all the bling on it. But
yeah.
But I will say, like, he's not wrong. But yeah, like, kind of going with some stock elements of it. Like, I've definitely stuck with stock suspension. I mean, I did do stiffer springs, but no stock valving. It's just because I weigh 220, but plus my gear and everything. And I'm carrying 30-pound pack around. But overly soft compared to what I used to run, thinking that I needed to run a stiff bike because I'm faster or whatever, technical rider. So you've taught me a lot of things over the years about like moving your levers in and not having full wraps. And because I came from a total trail riding background, and
it makes it better too.
It's so much better.
Yeah, having your bike set up properly where you're squeezing the right part of your lever, and because your levers are in the right spot, you can have your elbows in the right spots without having to kink your hands. And it's just when everything's working, it's like, you know, fluid. At the end of the day, you're only connected with your bike at a few spots, your hands, your feet, and your legs a little bit. And unless those things are set up ideal, then you're not going to be as connected to your bike as you want to be. And especially when you watch the pros ride, and it's like, man, it looks like they're just completely one with that bike.
Yeah.
They don't look like two separate things working with each other. Those are one thing. And it's because they're just super, super connected to that bike, and they just are very receptive to the feedback, and they're comfortable on it. And
yeah, it's definitely cool to see.
Yeah.
And it's been cool, like, kind of getting to parlay some of that I've learned from you. I kind of just regurgitate what you have taught me to other people.
Perfect.
And it's been cool because I ride with a lot of different people traveling around the country, and like people don't realize that their bike setup is whack.
Right.
And they don't realize that it's holding them back until they have that light bulb moment. And like, just the other day I was showing a buddy my bike setup, and he was watching me and Tyler ride, and he's, and that's just us, like film crew, not even you guys, and then he moves his levers in, he ditches his cone valves, goes back to stock suspension, gets the drop pegs, brings his brake lever back, moves his levers in, tries to get his body position good, drops his heels. And then it's like a whole new life for him. And then now he's like the biggest fan. Yeah. Shout out to JP. I'll send you this podcast.
Yeah.
So, it's cool to see people have that light bulb moment that I had with you.
Yeah. Good.
And so it's like fun for me to keep sending that to other people.
Dude, that's the whole point, is to get that stuff out there to the people that need it. I mean, I regurgitate a lot of the stuff that I learned from the advice that I've received when I was younger, and recently, even like from Steve Hatch. I teach a lot of the techniques that he taught me when I was a kid trying to learn. Yeah, because
they're time tested and they work.
They work.
Right.
And it's a simple way to break it down. And, I think that the more people that have access to that information, the more people that are spreading the word and helping people, the better.
Yeah. And I think like on the film side, watching all the footage over the last 2 years made me realize a bunch of stuff about riding style. And so that's why I also like showing off the top pros, because you guys do these moves time and time again. And like, unless you're being told what that is, if you don't see it, you don't really know why they're doing things. But I was just watching things like time and time again. Okay, they're doing this with their leg, they're doing this with their body, like they're looking this way, and then over time, I'm like, I start to pick some of that up, like little things of like, oh, this is what they do. And so I'm hoping that people watching all this content can pick up on stuff, because you really do see a totally different way of riding with 100%. You guys. 100%. Yeah.
I think what you're doing with the Burros too would be sick, because you're going to see these guys learning these really technical obstacles and how they bail out of them. And even the technique that is used in a failure, if they don't make it up something and they back off last minute and they flip it around before they try it, there's so much to learn even from the process. And from Instagram, you see a clip of these guys going up the biggest gnarliest thing and they make it look easy
because they post the one where they clean it or whatever,
so it's almost good to see the ones where they don't clean it also, so you can see what happens and see that comparison.
You guys have such a split second decision making for your go no go decision, which is impressive. Like, you guys know, I think that's one of the biggest things too I always saw between the pros and the amateurs that I kind of learned in the last couple of years is you guys know when to call it off, but the amateurs just hang on to that thing and like all the way up. And then they make it way worse.
They'll be like 100 feet from the top, and they'll still try to go straight up this hill, go at 0 miles an hour. Like, all of a sudden, this thing's gonna hook up, and I'm gonna make it. Like,
all of a sudden,
and all of a sudden, boom, crash down. It's like, bro, before you did that, you should have known you weren't gonna make it, and just turned out of it. Boom, come back down, and then now you got to hike back up this mountain.
Double the work.
Fell down. You got to lift your bike up uphill.
Buy some parts, maybe even.
Triple the work. 100 times the work.
Yeah.
So just learning how to process terrain and read it and figure it out.
Does that just come from like just repetition, just kind of knowing what your bike is going to do, knowing what terrain, like you've just been in so many scenarios you can kind of pull from that and know it's going to happen or it's not? Because like some of you guys will like Ryder, I'll say like, what do you think about this line? He's like, it'll go. And then it's like, he just knows it'll go.
Yeah.
And then you guys do that. Like, how do you get to that point?
It just depends on the obstacle and the run in. Like yesterday, there was a lot of really short, really sketchy run-ups with really short but sketchy climbs, like cliff climbing. And if your run up to that wasn't perfect for all that stuff, then it's like, okay, I'm calling it off before I try this. Yeah. But like a bigger, longer hill, you're going to have a little bit more time to know if I have enough momentum to make it up this hill or if I should turn out of this thing. So it all just depends. And then there's everything in between that. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's just unlimited amounts.
You guys are like full throttle, all that energy too, and you're processing that.
Yeah.
In the split second.
It's crazy. Quick decision making is difficult. I feel like Taddy Blazusiak, that was one thing he was really good at back when he was in his prime racing enduro cross, is his reaction times were so good. So even if he was going through a rock section and he got kicked sideways, he would just boom, immediately be able to like adapt to that new line or whatever it was and then ride that line perfectly. Just without it being a mistake. He just makes it a new thing. Wow. So that's kind of a unique Taddy
Tatty
thing,
flare.
I feel like,
Yeah, that's probably a tough thing to have, is to, be able to correct mistakes that quick. Cause like, you get kicked around or spit, in one direction, like in the nasty wet stuff, like in Ohio, you're just sliding around and everything.
Oh.
And it's like, it seems like you just get told where to go at times, but to like react that quick that's impressive.
Super impressive.
Yeah.
I feel like something funny happened in Ohio.
Oh, I don't know. A lot of things happened.
That place is gnarly.
It was gnarly.
What happened in Ohio.
Yeah, that was one place like I kind of was curious to ride the course, but then didn't have a bike because I flew in. So I was like, okay, maybe I just don't slide around and kill myself.
Yeah.
But like, it would be fun. So the problem is I always wanted to ride the day after the course or the race, because then I didn't have any film objective. I never wanted to like go hard the days before pre-riding with you. And I'm always like, you told me one time, you're like, don't, or maybe it was Evan, you're like, don't think about crashing because you normally don't crash. But I was always like trying to be careful the day before to like not let you guys down and like, get hurt or whatever. But the day after the race, everybody splits, everybody's done all their racing. And I'm like, oh, I kind of want to ride this course. Like, this is my chance, right? I'm not going to race. And so it's always hard to get people to want to do that. But that was one place where I kind of wanted to ride it, but then I'm like, it's kind of nasty.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty, that place.
Yeah.
Super nasty.
Pretty cool terrain, though. I actually was surprised for that race and the Iowa race were pretty surprisingly unique terrain.
For sure.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Iowa place is like a jungle.
That might have been the gnarliest amateur energy we had to date was Iowa, I would say. Bikes flying, and we put you out in the middle of all the chaos with,
more matches.
Really refined that.
Yeah, that was where that came about.
Yeah, it was really fun watching your progression of on-camera narration when you were out there, because you were like working on your lines and kind of refining your hooks and knowing when to close, and just some of the stuff that you don't think about, like in a long form like this, we can talk for an hour, but on camera with a bike flying and the guys are coming by super fast, you got to hit your line. And a lot of the time I'm having you look at me and the rider's coming from behind you. So you have to kind of time it and, Yeah. And so it was tough.
I learned so much, dude. I learned so much the last 2 years at the Hard Enduros, just with everything. And it was nice having you be able to just tell me like, dude, okay, here's what I need from you. I need 5 to 20 second clips basically that I can put into this movie and make it into something cool. I'm like, oh, okay. I get it now.
Yeah.
You need a clip with like, context, who, what, where.
Boom. Yeah. In 5-10 seconds. Yeah. And I only really was kind of like, this is what I need, because you were so open to telling me, what do you need? Yeah. Right. And so it was like, well, if you want to know, this is exactly what I need.
Yeah. So much easier that way.
Yeah. And then we just were getting closer and closer to the mark all the time. And I remember we would just roll up, get set up, in the last seconds, we'd be, a lot of time you're running over to the spot in your boots, like I'm asking Rachel for camera shit at the last second, like, give me this, give me that. And we're getting set up, and then boom, you nail the line and the rider rides by, Tristan, often. And then boom, we're on to the next thing. And it was always like kind of chaotic, but it was fun seeing that, like, we just had it kind of figured out by the end.
Yeah.
In the beginning we're like, okay, how are we even going to tell this story, and how's it even going to work, and where are you going to look, and where are you going to stand? And
it was a lot to learn. But
yeah.
We sharpened the axe throughout the year and got better and better.
Yeah, just with being a small crew, we just had to get stay tight with it, and that was always fun.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Well, listen, dude, we could sit around and talk dirt bikes all day, but I'll definitely want to have you on again in the future. And
appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked with all the work that you're doing with Hard Enduro Burros, and I can't wait to see some of that content that you got coming out. I think that'll be a very cool, colorful addition to the world of hard enduro. And I think we're lucky to have you, just being dedicated and passionate enough about hard enduro that you're willing to invest in the sport, because you're investing in the sport too. So I feel like we should be grateful to have that. So thanks for everything that you do. Thanks for coming on and being here and helping the studio get set up with lighting properly. And
there we go.
Still work in progress, but thanks for everything, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. I owe a lot to you guys, just taking a shot on, Rachel and I, to work with you guys with the series and open a lot of doors and change my riding. And, so I really appreciate all that. So looking forward to see where the podcast goes.
100%. Thank you. And if you want to share your social handles for the Hard Enduro Burros or anything like that.
Oh, yeah. You can go to hardenduroburros.com to check out the riders, and we'll be dropping episodes in April on the Hard Enduro Burros YouTube channel. And then if you're interested in upping your game, riding wise, definitely take a Max in-person clinic. But if you're far away and you can't track this guy down, I've been working with Cody Webb on the CW2 training platform, and it's going to be a cool community of like-minded individuals who want to work on their riding through skills and fundamentals and, interact with Cody. And so it should be a cool platform. We've been putting a lot of time into it.
Yeah, hell yeah. There you go. Get better on your dirt bike and be entertained all at the same time.
Yep. And then if you want to see the film shenanigans, we're at SkyPixel Media on Instagram.
Hell yeah.
So that's where you can see long necking around.
Long necking through the woods.
There you go.
This guy can carry a camera through some mountains. I'll vouch for that.
I'm not as clumsy as I might look for my height, I will say.
It's impressive, dude. It's one of my favorite memories is watching you carry some super heavy apparatus of some sort through the mountains, stepping over giant trees and stuff. Just got that neck out front, walking like
Lead
this,
with the neck.
Boop, 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 boop. I was like, we're long necking today.
Yeah, and I will say I ate shit in front of Colton at Silver Kings down in Milo Creek.
Yeah.
It was one of the few times I ate it, but I saved it. I landed on the elbow, camera was saved, but one of my worst moments was long necking around down in there.
Well, you go down once a season, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's a lot better than the racers.
Yeah, for real.
Well, with that, I appreciate you having me on. It was 100%. A lot of fun.
Anytime, brother. Thank you. Cheers. That's it.
That's it.
Thank you, guys.
How was that?
That was great. I think, honestly, that's our best episode yet.
Oh,
fucking
shit.
sick,
Well, you
dude.
say that to everybody.